gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November the 20th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented today by GameTime.co, your headquarters for all of your last minute and ticketing needs in April for sporting events, theater, concerts, anything that you want to attend in the continental United States. GameTime.co will take care of you and get you the best seats at the best prices. You also can utilize Game Time through the Game Time app. We'll talk a little bit more about them later in the show. But Matt, we got another one to reconcile here, man. It's been a tough 7-week stretch for the Miami Hurricanes. 5 losses in 7 weeks. The only 2 wins in overtime at home. Just an unimaginable, unfathomable ACC season for Miami. And like I look at the whole thing and I look at the standings and I'm like, my God, how did this happen? Like this team is not this bad, but on game day they just managed to morph into a team that finds a way to lose. And I keep looking at inconsistency and especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you come into the game against Louisville Saturday. Now all of a sudden the offense is playing much better with Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback. He's not throwing interceptions. Shannon Dawson's doing a much better job of game planning. Where was the Shannon Dawson that we saw on Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium for the last 7 weeks? And this is the problem that this program has right now. And just absolutely no steadiness in performance. It's I mean, we can go on and on. It's frustrating as heck. And if we're frustrated, Mario Cristobal is frustrated, and he's the guy that's got to do something about it. And Matt, he's got to do something about it quickly because they cannot go through another season like this. It's just, I'm not saying that he's not losing the support of the people that matter, but I think they are getting antsy. I think they were hoping for better than this. I know Mario was hoping for better than this, and this is a better team than what they're showing.
I'll take it as your pause means I'm allowed to speak now. So you said
It's all you.
No, it's nice you're living in fantasy land. A tough 7-week stretch. How about a tough 20-year stretch?
Oh, yeah,
honestly, it's to me. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it's almost like an abusive relationship. They just wear you down and grind you down to the point where you're numb. Like, people are posting after the game, like, "Hey, Matt, what are your thoughts on the game?" Like, I just had no thoughts. I mean, my mind is blank at this point. I don't even know what to think. It's not that surprising that this is a 7 or 8 win team. I mean, that's what I predicted before the year. But then they win those first 4 games and look so good doing it. You change your prediction, you change your perception, you change your outlook. You think, "Hey, this is it. They're turning the corner. They're paying this coach all this money. This is going to be it." And now you look and you mentioned the standings. Only Syracuse and Wake Forest are worse than Miami in the standings, and they're both 1-6 in the ACC. That's embarrassing. My wife, she's a Hurricanes fan. She has her own theory. She says it's my fault, which is probably right. No, she
good
says
for her. I'm with it. It
she did not say that. I made that up to make you feel good.
It has to be your fault.
She says that in close games, it comes down to coaching, which actually makes sense. And it does come down to coaching for sure, because you can point. Obviously, the Georgia Tech game speaks for itself, but you could point to a drive or two, again, even this past weekend, where you could say, what were they thinking? What were they doing? Why did they do that? And I'm sure you'll talk more about that in a minute, because, it's sort of your idea and I agreed with it. But on top of that, as I was thinking about this last game, the first quarter and a half, Miami had 21 points and 212 yards, somewhere in there. And that's in the first 20. That's in the first 21 minutes of the game. They were rolling. They ran a reverse to Brashard Smith, and Louisville had never seen such a thing for the Miami offense. They were like, "Wait a minute, he ran the other direction. He didn't run up the middle. What? It was mind blowing."
He pretty much ran up the middle.
At least it was a reverse.
In the middle.
At least it was a reverse with some action going a different way. You're right, but he did wind up on the. He did at least wind up on the right side.
The Wildcat on the first offensive series.
Yeah, so this is the thing. It almost seemed like, you know how sometimes when, and I taught a high school journalism class, believe it or not, and sometimes you'll see these papers these students turn in, and like the first half of their paper is great. You could see they put the time in, they researched it, they were writing really well, and then like they just got sick of it, and they mailed in the second half of their paper. And to me, like that's what Shannon Dawson did in this game. It seemed like he had a great game plan going in. And those first 20 minutes, they were executing it beautifully. It was like nobody could stop this offense. They were doing, like you said, Burchard and the Wildcat, running reverses, throwing, misdirection screens, and there were tunnel screens. There was throws down the field
routes.
Yeah, there was everything. And then all of a sudden, it's like Shannon Dawson just ran out of plays that were new to run. Like he had like his 20 plays that he had specifically for Louisville. He threw them all out there in the beginning. They just went back to what he always did the previous games, which I just don't understand why. And then they started running the same plays that they had run the prior 6 games. Like that's what I saw on Saturday. I don't understand why. Maybe he thought Louisville had figured it out. I don't know. Maybe he wanted to avoid mistakes with Miami having a lead at that point. But like if we've learned anything in 20 years covering this team, if you decide to go in a shell and just hope to scrape by and win a game, that's not Miami Hurricanes football. Players know what you're doing. Miami players don't respond well to that. And like you can't do that. Miami players want to annihilate the other team. They don't want to win by 1 point running 3 plays and punting. They want to annihilate the other team. And it's time to give some red meat to these guys and just say, you know what, we're up by 3 points. We're still throwing deep. We're still running innovative plays. We're still doing stuff that might be a little bit risky. Like, because that's what Miami Hurricanes football is, and that's what these players want to do. And it just seems like this offensive system, again, the round peg in the square hole or the square peg in the round hole, it just doesn't quite fit the conservatism that we constantly see. Like Miami takes a 3-point lead. Their next series, they're running 3 out of the next 4 plays. Like that's just what they do. And it's aggravating to me against teams that aren't that good. I know Louisville is ranked 9th or whatever. They're not that good, man. Like FSU, yeah, I'll give you that they were good. And what really bothers me, and this again comes back to the whole, abusive relationship thing. Like these players are playing their hearts out. They cannot play any harder. And I can see the difference this year to last year. And I don't want to blame the coaches, but when you got guys giving their hearts and playing that hard, and when you have good players, these are good players. These aren't bad players. There's something broken in somewhere in the University of Miami, and they got to find some freaking masking tape or crazy glue and fix it, because I can't put my finger on it anymore. Like I had a pretty good idea going into this year what was wrong with the team, but I cannot tell you right now, after game 11, what is wrong with this team anymore, because they should not be losing games in this fashion, being conservative and this total stupidity and just boneheaded plays. Like at the end of the game, I can't even explain how you get 2 personal fouls in a row like that. With the game on the line, you could have them at least bury at their own 3-yard line, hoping to get the ball back after 3 plays, even though you're not going to have much time left because they wasted the timeout, whether you agree with that or not. And they don't, because of a somebody said something mean to Jacoby George, and of course you got to smack the guy in the face when he does that. And then like the punt 4 plays later, the same exact thing happens on the side of the field. How do Miami coaches not have their team more disciplined than that? Like Mario Cristobal called those 2 guys out for basically being juvenile delinquents or whatever he said. He said I think he just said their immaturity, and he said it's crap.
These were unforgivable. I mean,
but you know what Mario should be saying? Mario should be saying it's my fault, because I was a coach for kids who, to me, half of them were crazy children, like who were nuts. And you have to teach them how to behave. Yes, they should know how to behave. These are your student athletes. These are your players. You've had them for a long time, teaching them how to be mentally strong. And that was mentally weak at the end of the game. And for Mario to blame the players, I blame the coaches for that. I don't blame the players, because Jacoby has had problems before. He's been suspended before. They know how Burchard is, right? These kids, they wear their heart in their sleeve. And James Williams, it worked with him, right? Miami coaches reined in James Williams all year, but the whole team should have that same mindset. Like that whole, Mario Cristobal, he stresses this whole mantra of how you do anything is how you do everything. Like that's his whole thing, right? He's the culture, everything. The culture is not anywhere near where it should be, just based on those 2 plays, because that comes back to the how you do anything is how you do everything. That comes back to the culture. That comes back to not putting yourself first. Those are selfish plays. And to have that still occurring with two primary players, one on offense, one on, both on offense, I guess, it's not about the players. It's about the system. And I don't know the answers anymore. Like I thought I knew some answers before this. I don't have answers anymore. And I just pray that Mario Cristobal does, because this roster needs to be totally reshaped with free agents, with playing first and second year guys next year mainly, and just a few of the older guys, because these older guys are just not working out, in my opinion. Like they just aren't. You can't go through 2 years playing older guys for the most part and like having these results constantly. You got to bring in just all new guys, a whole new team. Like I want a whole new team. I don't want 12 returning starters or 15 returning starters out of the 22. I want 0 returning starters. I want to start over. I want young guys who are 4 and 5 stars. I want free agents from other programs who are coming in. And I want a totally different team next year. I'm so sick of watching this. Like, I'm sure fans out there are just as frustrated as I am, but I am sick of watching this for 20 straight freaking years. I'm done with it, man. Start over. Like, I don't care. Start over with great players and let's freaking go, because the guys you got now, if you're planning to have 15 of these guys back next year as starters, I'm out. I'll be in the, I don't know where I'll be. I'll be covering the basketball team. That's where I'll be. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm so sick of it.
There's going to be a lot of upheaval. There's going to be a lot of change. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be sad. At some point, though, I think that everybody outside the program needs to start streamlining things a little bit. Like, it's like there's this feeding frenzy on Mario. Everything's Mario's fault. Everything. It's like we've totally forgotten what this is, and which is a complete total rebuild of the program that involves a lot of moving parts and a lot of details. And go ahead and accuse me of being an apologist at your own peril. Like, I'm like, Matt, I'm over that already. Okay, like there's nobody doing any apologies or anything like that. Certainly not at CaneSport. We are analyzing what we're watching and trying to figure out what the solutions are. And like let's look at the second quarter yesterday, and we've seen this multiple times this year. Miami takes a 21-14 lead. Okay, in at the 7:42 mark of the second quarter, Louisville drives down the field. They miss a field goal. Okay, so at 3:42 of the second quarter, Miami gets the ball back, up 7, with a chance to seize control of the football game before the half. Okay, so this is what happens. Don Chaney runs up the middle for a 5-yard gain. Okay. Tyler Van Dyke passes short to Don Chaney, who gains 3 yards. Okay. We have 3rd and 2 at the Miami 28. Okay. What do you think the play call is?
I was going to guess a run up the middle, but I don't even remember which series you're talking about.
It's a Mark Fletcher run up the middle.
Yeah.
On 3rd and 2 at the 28, you have a chance. So you have 3 plays there. Okay. That you could dial up something to start getting the ball going down the field. You got 3:42 left on the clock. You're up 7. You have a chance to grab this game by the cojones and go up by 2 scores if you could put a good drive together. Okay? And they go 3 and out with the most conservative of play calls that you've ever seen in your life. So, of course, what happens? Louisville gets the ball back. They run their 2-minute offense, and they go down and score a touchdown. And they go into halftime down 21-20 because they missed the extra point. But that totally changed the entire game right there. Like, Miami had a chance to gain control and didn't do it. And then Louisville gets the ball to start the third quarter. They go down and kick a field goal, and now they're up 2. So before Miami touches the ball again, you've had a 9-point swing or 8-point swing in that game. And that was basically it. Like from there, it was just grasping at straws and trying obviously to win. But Louisville, on top of everything I just said, won the fourth quarter, 15-3. So another loss. This is how they're losing games. There is a common pattern of not being able to dial up the right things on offense. That is the responsibility of the offensive coordinator. Everybody wants to lay it all on Mario, and ultimately Mario is responsible for everything because he is the head coach. And they're just making things up, Matt. Mario is dictating this to Shannon Dawson. Mario's conservatism is killing the offense. Nobody has a clue what they're talking about. And it's creating a state of insanity in the fan base. It is as toxic as can be. And it's difficult to watch because this is year 2 of a rebuild, and this team made significant progress in a lot of areas this season. They just don't have a whole hell of a lot to show for it. But I'm trying to stay somewhat positive, Matt, because like the world is crashing down, especially when they're getting ready to go out and put the finishing touches on a recruiting class. Does not help anything.
Yeah, look, it's never as bad as it seems. It's never as good as it seems, right? And certainly I'm still optimistic. Like, I'm not changing my prediction now. I have never changed my prediction. Last year I predicted, 7 or 8 wins, and this year I predicted 8 wins. I still think 10 wins next year. Like, I don't care. The schedule's easy. There will be opportunities to get players in the portal. I still think the true freshmen are going to be great. It's just these older guys, man. I don't understand. There's not difference makers. They're not difference makers. I mean, Cam Kinchens and James Williams. Louisville looked at Cam Kinchens and James Williams and said, hell, we're going to throw the ball at those guys. With tight ends who had a combined 10 catches, all 3 of them, all year. And they crushed Cam Kinchens and they crushed James Williams. I think Cam, they were 6 for 6 or 5 for 5 passing against him, 4 for 5 or 4 for 6 against James. It's just,
that's not even counting the whiff tackle on the
yeah. There was 14 missed tackles in the game. I understand Lance Kidger was missing all of his defense, all of his real defensive linemen, including Messidor and Kelly and Leonard Taylor. I understand that. And I still think his system's great. I really do. But it's just disheartening when you see an offensive coordinator do things like that, and your offensive coordinator is just doing the same stuff after a really good first quarter and a half. He just goes back to the same ridiculous plays. It's a little disheartening. So look, at the end of the day, at least I've been saying all year, I've been saying this is an average team, talent-wise, maybe a little above average talent-wise. They need to be well above average talent-wise, because I'm just not, I've said it before, I'm not sold on Mario Cristobal as a game day coach, but it doesn't matter if he's a great recruiter and if they get free agents in the portal and if he can inspire his players to play hard, which he does. He's got a tireless work ethic that he sets the standard by example. So if his only failing is being a game day coach, I know fans will think that's the most important thing. To me, it's not. To me, Mario still is the right guy at Miami at the most important time. And guess what? If it doesn't work with Mario, I don't know who it'll work with. Fans always want to say, oh, hire this guy, hire that guy. Like, no, you got to give Mario, like, this is it to me. Like, Mario is the guy. When he was hired, I'm like, I know Mario. I know what he does. I know his work ethic. I know how he recruits. If he can't do it, I don't know who can. So we have to, as a fan base, just rally around, not be too negative. Like, I understand, express your opinions on the CaneSport boards, keep it off the social media, national media platforms to not affect recruiting, okay? Too much. I understand there's frustration. I understand there's anger. I understand you paying this guy all this money, and it's like we're a joke of, Miami's a joke of a program right now. It is, unfortunately. But Miami was barely an underdog against Louisville. Miami's a big favorite at BC, which isn't it's not a good team, BC. But you understand, it's not like nationally, Miami does still have a little bit of respect with people saying, hey, they're a pretty good team. So there are some bones there. And I was being a little facetious when I said I want all new starters. I mean, there are definitely some guys who obviously are going to be really, really good in the future. And I'm talking about mainly the freshmen. And then a few of the other guys who I don't have to name them. You guys all know who they are, but some of them will be leaving either to the NFL or they're graduating. So, it is still a process. To me, it's a very slow process. I had hoped there'd be more. And yes, this is progress from last year, but last year was so bad. I was hoping there would be a much higher level of progress. Like if the team got probably an F last year, honestly, if I was giving the team a grade last year, I'd give them a C- this year. And I was expecting to give them a B. And I was expecting to give them a B. And so they're behind. Like if it's somebody recovering from an injury, and it's like they'll be back in 7 months. Like that's when they're supposed to be back, in 7 months. And then you could either be ahead of schedule or behind schedule. Miami's behind schedule. Mario Cristobal is behind schedule in the resurrection of the Miami program, and it's very disappointing and very frustrating. But you know what? It's still an upward trajectory. F to C- is still moving up. We're still getting better. We're not failing anymore completely. We're only failing a little.
At the end of September, he was ahead of schedule. Now, as we approach the end of November, he's behind schedule because of the losses. Not in terms of roster development, I don't think, but in terms of losing.
I thought the roster might have been better than it was. As you go up and down this roster and you look at the players who are going to come back, I mean, I'm still, you can't say, I'll just go by position really quickly, okay? Quarterback, we don't know with Emory yet, right? He hasn't played enough. Jakari, they didn't even play him over Tyler when they benched Tyler and they wouldn't bring him in. So whatever, because Jakari can play and still redshirt. Anyway, Tyler, obviously very erratic, inconsistent. I thought he played fine against Louisville. Not great, but fine, but very inconsistent. Running back position, I love Mark Fletcher. You guys know that. He's a workhorse. He's the featured back for as long as he's here. I think he's amazing. The wide receivers, they're okay. They're hit or miss.
Okay.
If somebody named Van Dyke's not the quarterback, Restrepo is very average to below average. I think Jacoby is the best receiver out of the bunch just in terms of playmaking ability, and he's above average but not great. So they're not, to me, the receiver position is not as good as I thought it was maybe heading into the season or the early part of the season. Tight end position is a total disaster. They need Riley Williams to really, really, really work hard this offseason and become a much better all-around player, including as a receiver. And they need Elijah Arroyo to really get healthy. So that position, again, you don't know. Like, Arroyo's never done it before. He's never put up Will Mallory-like numbers. So tight end, again, like receiver, like who knows? So you can't say that, this is really, and I'm talking about like plus-level talent, like championship-level talent. The only champion level that I just named, quarterback, receiver, running back, and tight end. The only guy out of that entire roster right now, I'd say, is championship level, is Mark Fletcher. That's it. Okay, that's the problem. Offensive line, Javion Cohen is almost certainly going to leave. Matt Lee may leave. They both walked at senior day. I think the offensive line is going to be excellent. Okay, I really do. Regardless, and you got Jalen Rivers coming back. You got Inez Cooper coming back. Probably. And obviously you have Mavigoa coming back, and probably you're going to have Okunlola as a starter next year, which is fine. He's going to be great. He was just hurt this year. He would have played a lot.
Could factor in next year too if they keep him around.
Zion, you said?
Yeah, that's a decision they'll have to make.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's not going to last the whole year, but yeah, he could certainly be good enough. And then I think Kinsler is going to be a really good player also, and McCoy, those two guys. So they're fine on offensive line. I think that's a championship. Honestly, I think it's a championship level offensive line, even losing those two guys if they do both leave. They don't have to, either of them. Then the defensive line is going to be as good as you can find anywhere in the country next year. Okay, so offensive line, defensive line, and one running back. Bam. Okay, I'm good with all that. I don't need to name the defensive lineman. Leonard's going to be coming back. I can't imagine him going pro. So, unless he decides to change his zip code, which I don't imagine he's going to do, that defense line is going to be sick with him, Messidor, Kelly, Burrows from Alabama. Hopefully he'll come through a little bit. They got young guy, Bain. Obviously, they got young guys like Horton. I think he's going to have a really big role next year. So that's going to be good enough for sure. And then the linebackers, you got a lot of unknowns. Francisco Mavigoa has had a great year. He's probably borderline championship level, but more so because of his smarts, not because of how physical or fast or the combination thereof. Like, he's not a guy who's going to wow you with his jumping and running and all that stuff, but he plays smart. He's really, really good. And he can come back, obviously, and will come back. So that's good. And then aside from him, though, Basainth has been disappointing to me, honestly. And then you got the 4 freshmen, and we don't know with them yet, right? So you really have maybe 1 to 2 linebackers, borderline decent position. And then the secondary is a little bit of a mess because Kinchins hasn't been good. He'll probably have to return, in my opinion, but he might try to go pro. James Williams probably will go pro just because he's going to test off the charts at the NFL Combine, even though he's had a really good season, maybe not a great season, a little inconsistent there. And you got no cornerbacks. So you got a defensive line, an offensive line, and a running back. And then the rest of it's like a lot of question marks. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with it? You need players like what we haven't had here in 20 years. You need players to develop. We haven't had players here get exponentially better over 3 or 4 years. That's what Mario and the staff have to do. Like, forget the play calling, forget not taking a knee. The development that needs to happen, we don't know yet. That's what I'm banking on. When I say 10 wins next year and the playoffs the year after, I'm banking on development. I'm banking on Mario making sure these guys work 24/7, including every second, however many seconds that winds up being in a week and a year. And like that showing up on the field next year, because like I just said, there's not a lot of returning talent, okay, that's proven. So you need unproven talent to step up and complement whatever free agents they get in the portal, and then whatever freshmen come in that are ready to play right away, which usually, if it's maybe just 2 or 3 of them, that's about normal. So it's going to be a really interesting, we have a story on that this morning, starting to look at the roster on offense. But starting December 4th, when that portal opens, it's going to be really interesting to see how Mario attacks this, because he has not attacked the portal correctly over the last 2 years. And he's filled the roster up with these guys, which is, a lot of them are why I'm saying there's nobody at this position, nobody at that position. A lot of those guys are transfers who are still on the roster, who were just another guy who they brought in for depth because they didn't have enough depth. And God forbid they had to bring in more freshmen, because freshmen aren't depth. Freshmen are guys who are supposed to redshirt. So they just took bodies for no reason. They're clogging up the roster, double-digit bodies right now on this roster that will be coming back that are honestly just another guy. And that is something Mario has to reconcile somehow, because, I was talking to another reporter about this at the game on Saturday. If you start jettisoning guys who came in as transfers, like a Logan Sagapolu, for instance, or even an Anthony Campbell, who is a 2-year project, he's going to be a redshirt senior next year, but guys like that who are taking roster spots, really important roster spots on a program that has to totally restructure itself with a much higher level of talent quickly. If you jettison those guys, and I understand maybe Anthony Campbell graduated so he could transfer a second time for free, but notwithstanding, if you have not graduated, you cannot transfer a second time without sitting out, and no one's taking you and your career's over. And if they do that to even one transfer, what's going to happen when more transfers are looking to come to Miami versus other schools? They look at Miami and they see an outspoken student athlete who's upset that he got kicked off the team, essentially, and couldn't find another home because he had given Miami his word, I am transferring to you, and they gave him their word that we are taking you as a transfer, you will finish your career here. And they needed that spot for a recruit because they're bringing in 26 to 30 recruits, probably 5 to 10 transfers, and they have 12 guys that walked on senior day, and not all 12 might even leave. So you're talking about kicking out 20 to 30 players off the current roster, okay? So if some of those guys are second transfers, their careers are over if they haven't graduated. And, and listen, I wouldn't blame Mario for doing it, but it's because he's got to do it. But it's because you missed on them in the first place, and now that's going to kill you in the portal in the future, because guys aren't going to go to schools where they see this program ended a player's career because they kicked him out after a second.
They're ending a player's career. That player can't play, man.
Correct. But the players all think they can play. The players, you're out of your mind, because the players, their families, their friends all think they're all NFL players. Even the 10-year-olds I coached in Howard Palmetto baseball, every parent thought their kid was going to be in the major league.
Yeah,
I mean,
listen,
it's the nature of the beast.
There's no time for that nonsense right now. You see the situation, and like Mario's going to have to make the tough decisions, and people are going to have to live with them, and there's not going to be any room for guys that are just taking up space. I think they'll end up with a signing class of ballpark 25 kids. They'll have a couple additions. They'll have a couple. The couple of players that are currently committed.
I agree in the early period, but they always look for 2 or 3 guys in that late period, JUCO guys and whatever. I think they're going to have a few February signees that are going to come out of the woodwork. That's what I'm saying.
And I don't want to there's no way of knowing what they're going to do in the portal. I have to think they're going to take at least 6 to 10 guys in the portal. So that's going to be, say, 35 new players on next year's team. That could be here. Most of them could be here as soon as spring practice. So, this is going to look a lot different. That's why I don't understand how you're sitting there predicting number of games. We don't even know who's going to be on the team yet. We don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. We don't know what Tyler Van Dyke's going to do. We think he's going to leave.
It's because I believe. It's like a religion.
Well, I believe too, but we don't know
Gary,
if
you believe in God, there's no proof God exists. So I just believe. Every year I blindly believe they might win some games at Miami. I've been pretty on track with my predictions. My predictions the last 2 years, Ferman, let me talk. My predictions the last 2 years have been on target.
You just gave a 20-minute speech.
My predictions the last 2 years have been on target compared to yours, and I'm predicting 10 wins next year. And you can look me in the eye on December whatever of next year and say, Shodell, as usual, you were right.
Listen, I said 8 wins, and if they beat Boston College, and they finished 7-5. Had Mario taken a knee, I would have had 8 wins. So I was pretty close. Okay, and so were you. Like, quite frankly, we managed our expectations, but I don't think most of the fan base managed their expectations. I mean, people are really mad. Like, there's a lot of anger out there right now amongst the fan base, and I've been trying to put my hands around it here the last few, really last several weeks, but I'm seeing just relentless anger, and I'm not quite sure why, because I don't know how anybody could have expected this team to win more than 8 games this year. Now, they turned out to be better than I thought they would be, quite frankly. I mean, I think they've blown a lot of these games, and they could have won. There's not one of those games on the schedule that Miami was outclassed in that game and couldn't have won. They've blown 5 games without question.
They also could have lost 2 overtime games. Like,
so in essence, they really blew 7 games because the fact that those went to overtime was a joke. So, they are way better than this, but they're not way better than this because their record's not better than that. And Mario's got he's got a situation on his hands.
I mean,
here.
If you eat a 5-day-old stone crab, it's still a stone crab, but it's going to make you sick. Miami right now is a 5-day-old stone crab. Like, you can say they look great and they're better than everyone else, but it's still going to make you very, very sick if you decide to partake in that particular endeavor. And I'm telling you right now, I'm telling you right now, like, Mario will get to work on this. Mario is going to turn over this roster like you've never seen. There might be not just one new coordinator, but there's rumors that even Lance Guidry's, going to get looked at by LSU. I mean, this whole thing could look like a completely different team next year. And you know what? Maybe that's not the end of the world. Like, let's just see what happens. Because
listen, Shannon Dawson's a nice guy, the whole thing. If you look at his resume, there is no real accomplishment in that resume. Mario needs to get a pro. He needs to upgrade the level of expertise on his coaching staff. Like, he needs pro coordinators, guys that know what the hell they're doing, guys that when you're in the game at Florida State, you have 4 minutes left, that you will have a hurry-up offense ready to go. Like, when you're down on the goal line against NC State and you need the touchdown, you find a way to get the ball in the end zone. You don't get stopped. The other day against Louisville, same exact thing. With everything that went crazy in that game, you're still down there, and you've got 4 shots inside the 10-yard line, and you walk away without the touchdown that you need. He has got to find somebody that will get the damn ball in the end zone, that will I just mentioned 3 games that fell by the wayside because they just simply couldn't score down deep, inside the red zone. So these are close games right now because the team does not have a lot of elite talent. You're going to be in close games. He needs more expertise on his coaching staff so that he is winning these games and not losing them or going into overtime where you're life or death and you're going to win some, lose some. And he must figure out a way to accomplish that. Now, I know it sounds crazy. Oh my God, what if Mario needs 3 new coordinators in 3 years? That's a sign that he's a failure. That's a sign that he's not a good CEO. Look, it hasn't gone perfectly. I don't think that he has been able to hire the level of guys that he wanted to hire because either they weren't available or they didn't want to come. He has to keep trying. And if it means, Shannon, I appreciate your year of service, but we just have to do better than this, then so be it, okay? And if everyone wants to dump a 2-ton truckload of mierda on his lap over it, so be it, okay? Like, that comes with the...
What do you dump on his lap?
Mierda. Look it up in the Spanish dictionary. My Cuban friends, they know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about mierda because there will be a 2-ton truck of mierda dumped on Mario's head if he has to make some coaching changes in this offseason.
You sure it's not where to go?
No, mierda. M-I-E.
Where to go is mistletoe. Where to go is mistletoe. That's all I know.
Mierda. That's what they're going to dump on his head if he has to do it. But he may have to do it. That's just what you need, man. And it's like, Mario is a CEO head coach. Okay. He's never been a coordinator. He is a CEO head coach. There's no shame in that. There's no denying that. That is what he is. CEO head coaches need professional coordinators that they can count upon to run their respective sides of the football, to where he is complementing their effort and they're working in unison. But he knows that he can count on those guys 365 days a year and every minute of a football game. He does not have that right now. He was closer this year with Lance Guidry than he was Shannon Dawson. Lance Guidry absolutely would be a keeper going into the next year. He did well enough. But Lance Guidry got taken to school the other day by Brom and Louisville. Okay, the Miami defense had no answers all day for Louisville's offense. Louisville did a phenomenal job on offense. I'm not looking to diminish them, but they didn't have any answers there, and they didn't have any answers in the North Carolina game either. Okay, so but Lance Guidry, to me, at least of the 11 games that have been playing this year, he was a winner in 9 of the 11. Okay, Shannon Dawson was a winner to me in 2.5 of the 11. Okay, very good game against Texas A&M. I thought he did much better against Louisville yesterday, even though they fell short on a few possessions that they couldn't afford because of the way the game was playing out. But I thought the offense was much better. I mean, he had a wrinkle in there when he rolled out the unbalanced line and then ran a reverse out of it to Brashard Smith. That was a walk-in touchdown, phenomenal play. Those are the kind of wrinkles he had against Texas A&M. We didn't see enough of that this year, Matt. We didn't see. I mean, Louisville came in here yesterday with 3 or 4 wrinkles. I saw an offensive tackle catch a touchdown pass. I saw tight ends sneaking out into delayed routes that caught Miami by surprise. What other wrinkles? I saw a third-string quarterback come in and run the ball. They snuck him in the game at quarterback to run the ball and score a touchdown. We saw Jeff Brom roll out wrinkles at critical times in that ball game yesterday that all worked against Miami's defense. Okay, we didn't see enough of that from Miami on offense this year. We saw a lot of vanilla, a lot of very simple offense with very predictable route trees and plays. Very minimal use of the backs in the passing game. Threw the ball to Mark Fletcher on Saturday on a swing pass. I think he gained 25, 30 yards on that play. Totally caught Louisville by surprise because Miami hadn't been doing that this year. The tight end became invisible. Like you wouldn't even know there's tight ends on this team. So there were a lot of problems on the offensive side of the football. To me, that falls into the responsibility of Shannon Dawson. Mario needs better. If he keeps Shannon Dawson, he must invest in having some consultants and passing game architects come into the building and spend time with Shannon Dawson and improve this offensive scheme. It is not good enough, okay? And if he replaces him, he must replace him with a pro, an established pro who has done this on a winning stage, who knows how to run a professional offense and get that in the building, and the results will be immediate, I believe. And if Miami had a pro and a professional offense this year, we would be talking about a 9 or 10 win football team because that guy would have known to take the knee against Georgia Tech, and there wouldn't have even been any debate. Okay, he would have called for the knee because he was calling the plays, and there was no question what you're running in that situation. So all this can be corrected. It could all be tightened up. Need greater expertise. The other thing that Mario needs, Matt, and this might mean a couple more coaching staff casualties, he needs better recruiters in the building. There are some guys on the staff, and we're not gonna get into details and names right now. Not looking to dump on coaches the week of Thanksgiving. That's not right. But there's guys on the staff that aren't carrying their weight in recruiting. They're making zero impact in recruiting. They can't afford that anymore either. There is as great a recruiter as Mario Cristobal is. One guy can't be expected to carry the load by himself in recruiting. So that's just on the coaching side of the equation. Player-wise, they need a little bit of everything, and I think you're going to see them go for it. I think that it's going to be the wild, wild west in the month of December. A lot of activity, both in the portal and regular recruiting. I think that kids that think they're getting certain levels of NIL deals. I think some will get less, some will get more. I think you're going to see Miami very active with some of the better players out there to try to see if they could steal a couple of them. This is going to be a crazy December. Make sure you stick with us every minute of every day at CaneSport.com because our whole team will be working this situation and covering all of it. So Matt, just to sum up this last weekend, another disappointment, obviously, but in a huge way, it was just more of the same.
I mean, I as you know, I keep notes on what you say, so just a couple of quick thoughts. So look, Shannon Dawson probably, if he had as many wrinkles in his offense as you have on your face, Miami would be fine. He should count your wrinkles at the next press conference, and you should say to him, "This is how many wrinkles you need in your offense." But then you talk about
can we count my neck? I see a couple wrinkles here.
But then you talk about taking.
I don't have too many wrinkles on my face yet.
Then you talk about taking a knee. You don't have any wrinkles, Gary.
Can you believe after 20 years of watching this nonsense that I don't have more wrinkles on my face?
You have no wrinkles. You have no wrinkles.
I mean, I got a few up
Just
here.
relax.
Maybe.
I think you misheard me. I said my wrinkles. I wasn't talking about you. You misheard me.
You don't
get all fixated on your face.
Why don't we have so few wrinkles after 20 years of this nonsense?
The Botox is working for you. It looks good. So you mentioned taking a knee, being competitive in every game, et cetera, et cetera. Like, none of that's good enough. You shouldn't be playing at home against a bad team, having to take a knee on the final possession to prevent the other team from scoring a final touchdown to win. Like, you should be winning these games by 10, 20, 30, 40 points. Like, that's what really good teams do around the country. That's what Miami used to do. So all this talk about, oh, well, they're so competitive. They could have won 9 games if they had just done this drive different or that drive different. They could have won by 2 points. They could have won by 1 point. They could have won by 4 points. I don't care. That's not good enough. These Miami teams need to be built to be beating everybody who's not really good at a high level. Any not top 35 team, Miami should be beating them consistently by double digits. Like, that's the sign of a good team. And Miami's not doing that to anybody. And in fact, they're losing to those teams. So, like, to point and nitpick and say they could have won 9 games of this, 9 games of that. When your friends, and I'm talking to you out there, not Gary, whoever's listening to this, when you're sitting around your coffee cooler or water machine, I like to say it differently, talking about Miami, don't say that. Don't say they were so close to winning 9 or 10 games. Oh, they were in every game. Because that's not the sign of a good team. This is not a good team. That's all that matters at this point, at this level of progress in the program. You just want to know how much better is the team. The team is better, but it's not anywhere near where it needs to be. Because when it's near where it needs to be, every team not in the top 35 is getting beaten pretty bad. Not hanging around, and you don't know who's going to win until the final drive. That's my definition of a successful season. Not, Miami could have won 9 or 10 games this year. Remember, they won 10 games in whatever year, 2017, whatever. I don't know what year it was. They weren't a good team then either. They were squeaking by. You look at those results. There was, I think, 3 or 4 games out of those 10 they won where they barely won. Those are signs that it's not a real
they won the close games.
Yeah, but those are signs.
This year they've lost all the close games.
Those are signs it's not a real good team when you see that. So next year, if Miami beats Florida by 2 points and then Florida loses the next game by 30, you could probably think to yourself, maybe it's not such a good team anymore. But if Miami's beating the teams that it should beat and beating them handily, in other words, looking good doing it, that's a real sign of progress. Like, I don't care if they lose a bunch of, 1-2 point games to really, really good teams. What I care is I don't want to see them win 1 or 2 point games against bad teams. I'm done with that. That's what I'm over with seeing. And Mario has to get this talent level of this program and the play calling on offense specifically up to a level where we're not dealing with this every week, having close games, and no matter who we play, because every team in the ACC at this point is basically better than Miami, except for 2. They're either tied with Miami in the records or 2 or worse. And
that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous. I mean, and I don't know that that's really the case. It's just, it played out this way. It's great. Right. It's crazy. Like, I'm not trading teams with Virginia Tech.
No.
I mean,
that's not what I meant to intimate. What I meant to intimate is that Miami has to win games by more than 2 or 3 points and has to get out of this losing by a little bit And if just this drive was different, or if just that drive was different each game, we would have had such a great outcome. Like, no, that's not for me. You got to show it against the bad teams. You got to prove that you're actually a really good team by blowing those teams out, man. Like, don't play close with Georgia Techs and Virginia's and the Georgia. I said Georgia Tech. Whoever else they played, I'm like, my mind has been fried by this team. Honestly, like my mind has been fried. It's been a very rough season covering the Miami Hurricanes. Probably as bad as I can remember, simply because after those first 4 games, the expectations were ratcheted up. And I think that's where a lot of this anger comes from in the fan base, is like, what happened? What happened? You played 3 bad teams. I get it, but you look good beating them. And then you beat Texas A&M, which, they fired their coach, so maybe they weren't so good after all, right? But you still were 4-0. You were in the top 25, and fans expected a really good year, and you wound up with the word that you mispronounced, and it's not actually the right definition.
Mierda. It's mierda.
I'm pretty sure that means that's like a Day of the Dead thing, but whatever.
Mierda. You got to like put a little...
I don't think it's the right word, but I don't speak Spanish. I'm sure someone will comment and let you know if you're
Didn't anybody ever yell at you in school when you were young or something and say, Matt Shodell, come mierda?
No, the Day of the Dead, I know that one.
I'm going to say you that. Matt, come mierda, Matt Shodell.
Muertos is Dia de los Muertos. I'm saying it horribly, but that's the Day of the Dead. That's the big documentary festival.
They're driving off the road right now on their way to work.
I don't know. That's the big festival.
I want everybody to pull over, and I want to hear everybody go to the window of their car and scream, Matt Shodell, mierda.
Oh, thank God your microphone split off for half of that.
All right, listen. Let me take a moment now and talk about our friends at GameTime.co. Hurricanes season's about over, but there might be some other games you want to go to. NFL's coming up for playoffs. The NBA is cranking up. NHL, no matter where you live, there's concerts, there's theater shows, a lot of events out there that you might want to attend. And GameTime.co and the Game Time app are your headquarters for all your ticket needs. You should not have to worry when you're buying tickets to the next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices. They have graphics to show you the view from your seat, and then they have a best price guarantee. If you ever find a ticket in the same section, same row, for less money than you pay through Game Time, they will give you 110% guarantee.
And by the way, isn't Mierda? I did look up Mierda. Isn't it a curse word? Like, are you allowed to say that over and over again?
Yeah, who's going to censor me?
I don't know.
I'm the boss, and this is the internet.
Listen, when these little kids go to
school,
hell
I want to say.
When these little kids go to school yelling that word at
yes.
the teachers, then people might blame you. I'm just saying.
Yes, they're going to go into their elementary school classes, because we do have a lot that ride to school with their dads, and they watch the show, and they're going to go into their English class today, and they are going to scream, Matt Shodell, come mierda!
Great.
And I will take the blame for the corruption.
Hopefully they say Day of the Dead instead of mierda.
I will take blame for the corruption of all the young Canes fans. But anyway, listen, I'm trying to talk about GameTime.co
sorry about that.
And the Game Time app here. And I don't think they're going to be very happy with what you just injected in their spot. But anyway, no, Game Time is absolutely your go-to headquarters for all your ticket needs. They will take good care of you. And they have deals right up to the start of every event, even an hour before, even after the event starts, they will find ticket deals for you. They have flash deals, sponsored deals on tickets for all those events. They have zone deals where you pick a section and they pick the seats for you for an average of 18% savings. They have things that will make it easier and cheaper for you that nobody else in the ticketing business has. So download the Game Time app or go to the website, GameTime.co. Find yourself some tickets that you want, create an account, and when you make your first purchase, enter in the code name CANES, CANES, and you will get $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. That's the Game Time app, GameTime.co, set up your account, pick your event, pick your ticket, your seats, and execute the purchase. They'll give you $20 off with the code CANES. That's Game Time, your go-to choice for all your tickets, no matter what kind of event you would like to attend. And when you show up at the front of the stadium, the arena, the theater, feel free as you're walking through the gates to yell, Matt Shodell, come mierda. Okay? All right. Why are you shaking your head? You deserve every second.
I mean, I don't generally tell young people to scream curse words at other people or whatever.
All right, I'll prepare myself. I'm going to prepare myself for the wrath of.
Look, I'm impressed. I'm impressed you knew the word. My Spanish is not so good, So obviously.
All right, so we got a lot of other stuff on the website today. We'll have multiple sessions with Mario Cristobal to report on today. We'll be talking to Shannon Dawson and Lance Guidry today. We'll have all that for you as the day goes on at CaneSport.com. Also, we are going to start doing our in-depth analysis of the team beginning today with the offensive side of the ball with the final game approaching. There's going to be some roster turnover coming. The transfer portal opens, we believe, the 4th of December. Guys are going to be going in. Guys are going to be sent in. Miami's going to be fishing for new talent at different positions. So we're going to start trying to break it all down for you and give you an idea of what might happen when all that kicks in about now a little more than a week and a half down the road. Also be sure to check out all of our coverage. Miami won the Baha Mar Hoops Championship in Nassau over the weekend. Crazy final game with Kansas State. The Canes jumped out. They were dominant in the first half, had a 20-point lead, I think it was, at halftime. And they kind of screwed around. Like they played at times. They played a little like Mierda in the second half. And yeah, but this team is obviously very good. And I don't think it's a bad thing, Matt, that Jim Larinaga has some things that he needs to work on here in the course of the season. There's no reason why this team has to be a finished product as we sit here in November when they don't have to be at their best until March.
You don't think they look really good already?
I think they look good. I think there's a lot of ways they can get better.
I mean, I think it's a disaster what's happening. I think it's a disaster what's happened so far because they look too good. You want your team to start off, not so great, to get better and better. And
listen, they have a lot of talent.
Let me tell you, if this is their low point of the season, I mean, they're going to win a national championship. Like they are really, really good. And they're really almost clicking on all cylinders already. So look, I think they're as talented as anybody. I just hope that they keep getting better and not get worse, because you see some of these teams that start out of the gate really hot, shooting great, players are all really meshing together, and then it can fall apart. But so far, so good. Matt, the naysayer, is always worried. You know me.
They have 8 days now to prepare for Kentucky. Going to be a very interesting game. They go to Lexington a week from tomorrow. One of the great games of the ACC SEC Challenge this year, and I'm really looking for that one. Kind of wish I could make the trip up there, but it's too much hassle for one basketball game. But that is going to be something else. Canes at Kentucky in a week, and should be a heck of a game, and we're going to find out how good these guys really are right now. Kentucky is very good, and that game will have, without question, an NCAA tournament feel to it up there in Lexington. All right, other stuff on the website today. We have our usual assortment of recruiting coverage. One thing to keep an eye on, 4-star running back Kevin Riley. He's a top 75 running back commit. I think this kid is an unbelievable player. They cannot afford to lose him. He confirmed exclusively to CaneSport that he will be taking an official visit to Alabama in December, despite remaining committed to the Canes. Must keep an eye on Kevin Riley. Miami does not want to lose him to Alabama for sure. But he's from Tuscaloosa County, so And Alabama's had access to him constantly the whole time. So I'd be nervous about that one because this kid's really a good player. We also have an update with Daytona Beach Mainland 2024 safety Zay Mincy. He's another one that I would keep an eye on. He was at the game the other day, just a really good-looking athlete, would fit right in at safety for the Hurricanes. Might be the top remaining uncommitted prospect right now on the board. Miami very much in the mix there. They got a great chance to get Zay Mincy. So check out the latest on him. We also have an update on his teammate, 5-star defensive lineman, LJ McCray, another guy the Hurricanes want very badly. Not sure this one is going quite as well. He is committed to Florida. And even though things are falling apart in Gainesville in a big-time way, and they're having a horrible, horrible season that I'm sure they feel is near that as well, they still are holding on to LJ McCray. So he was not giving us a lot of hope that Miami would have a chance to flip him. But the Hurricanes certainly will not stop trying here all the way up to signing day on December the 20th. Let's see. We also have an update on Columbus 2024 3-star tight end Benjamin Blackburn. He is committed to Stanford. He's committed to Stanford. He flipped from Boston College earlier this year. Blackburn attended Miami's Saturday home game and updates his situation with us, and probably is one to watch here moving forward in recruiting. Benjamin Blackburn from Miami Columbus. All right, well, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. I think we've started enough trouble for a Monday morning. Please, please, please. I know I got a little animated and emotional and stuff. Don't hold anything I said against me. I'm not trying to corrupt the children riding in the car or anything. But, I mean, don't you feel when you look and listen to Matt Shodell on this show in the morning of yelling and screaming, Matt Shodell como mierda too? I mean, it's like, what do you know? it's just part of the deal, man. I mean, just observe. I mean, it goes without saying. If you're on YouTube right now, you like the show, like our channel, hit your subscribe and like buttons. They help us with the algorithms at YouTube and growing our audience and corrupting more minors out there. And if you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, we are always under our best behavior on CaneSport.com. Okay, so if you have any concerns after watching this show this morning, you don't have to have them. If you go over to CaneSport.com, we would love to have you as part of our fan community. Would love getting some new ideas in there. It's a lot of fun. The guys all go at each other pretty good. They come at me pretty good too. I've got to be up to the challenge every day. But you will not be sorry if you become a subscriber at CaneSport.com. So come on over and join our community of fans and let us do what we do every day to enhance your fan experience. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time, everybody.